The rain poured heavily over the city, washing the streets in silver streams. Streetlights flickered against the storm, cars honked in the distance, and the world felt restless, as if something big was about to happen. Emma clutched her umbrella with one hand and held her little boy Liam with the other. Her shoes were soaked, her coat was thin, and her body ached from long hours of work. She was late again for her night shift at the cafe, but she had no choice. Bills waited on the table at home, and Liam needed food, clothes, and school fees. Emma had learned to live with exhaustion. It was her constant companion, just like the small boy at her side. Liam looked up at her with innocent eyes, his face lit by every passing streetlight. He was only 8 years old, but he carried a calmness far beyond his years. When Emma finally pushed open the cafe door, the warm smell of coffee greeted them. The place was small and dim, with tired wooden tables and the faint chatter of regular customers. Emma set down her bag, tied her apron, and gave her son a tired smile before pointing to the corner table where he usually sat and waited. Liam nodded quietly, sat down, and pulled out an old pencil from his pocket. He did not ask for toys or screens like other kids. He only asked for something to draw on. Tonight it was a plain napkin. He bent his head and began sketching lines and curves, his small hand moving quickly as if following a plan only he could see. Outside, a sudden flash of headlights cut through the rain. A black luxury car rolled up to the curb. Its polished surface reflected the storm, sleek and sharp like a beast. The cafe door opened, and in walked Daniel Cole. His tall figure filled the doorway, his expensive suit darkened by raindrops. He held a phone pressed against his ear, his voice sharp with anger. People inside turned their heads, whispering. Everyone knew his face. Daniel Cole was the youngest self-made millionaire in the city, a man who built an empire of construction and technology. To the outside world, he was success in human form. But tonight his face showed cracks, tired eyes, clenched jaw, a man carrying the weight of too many battles. He ordered a black coffee in a low voice, still arguing on the phone. He spoke of failing contracts, deadlines, and designs that refused to work. His company's engineers had hit a wall, and investors were losing patience. Emma only half listened while serving him. She had no interest in the lives of the rich. They lived in a different world from hers, a world of money, power, and cold glass towers. She hurried back to the counter, trying not to look at him again. But Daniel, when he sat down, noticed something strange. Across the cafe, in the quiet corner, a little boy bent over a napkin, drawing with deep focus. The storm outside pounded against the windows, but the boy seemed lost in another world. Daniel frowned. At first, he thought nothing of it. Children doodled all the time. But then his eyes sharpened. The lines on that napkin were not simple shapes. They were precise, calculated, like the sketches of a trained designer. He leaned slightly forward, narrowing his gaze. His heart skipped when he recognized what it was. The boy was drawing the structure of a suspension bridge, almost exactly the kind of design his engineers had been struggling with for months. Daniel rubbed his eyes, wondering if stress was tricking him. But no, the sketch grew clearer with every line. He saw angles, balance points, even tiny notes written in childish handwriting but filled with strange accuracy. Something stirred inside him, something between disbelief and curiosity. How could a boy barely tall enough to reach the table create something that looked so advanced? He could not look away. The phone call faded from his mind. His problems, his anger, all vanished as his focus locked onto that napkin. Emma noticed the stranger staring and felt uneasy. She walked to Liam and gently touched his shoulder, trying to cover the napkin with her hand. "Liam, stop drawing now, eat something," she whispered. But Liam looked up with calm eyes and said softly, "Mom, I'm almost done." His pencil moved again, fast and sure, finishing the final strokes of the design. Emma sighed, embarrassed, not wanting her son's odd habit to draw attention. But it was too late. Daniel Cole had already seen enough. He stood and walked toward them, his coffee untouched on the table. His expensive shoes clicked against the floor, and the whole cafe grew quiet. Emma stiffened when he stopped in front of her. Daniel's voice was steady but carried curiosity that could not be hidden. "Did your boy draw this?" he asked, pointing at the napkin. Emma pulled it away quickly, her cheeks hot with shame. It's nothing. Just scribbles. He likes to draw things. She wanted the conversation to end. But Daniel did not move. His sharp eyes studied Liam, who sat calmly, looking back without fear. Daniel asked again, this time lower, more intense. Do you know what this is? Liam blinked, then answered in his small clear voice, it's a bridge. But not like the ones in the city. This one is stronger. If too many cars go on it, it won't break. He said it as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Emma froze. She had never fully understood her son's strange mind, but hearing him speak like this in front of a stranger made her heart race. Daniel's breath caught. His engineers had been breaking their heads for weeks on the same problem. Yet here was a child giving a solution with the innocence of play. He felt something shift deep inside him. This was not coincidence. This was extraordinary. For the first time that night, Daniel Cole was not thinking about profits or contracts. He was thinking about the impossible possibility in front of him. A child, a single mother's son, sitting in a small cafe, holding answers his entire company could not find. The storm raged outside, thunder echoing across the city. Inside the cafe, silence held everyone. Emma clutched Liam's shoulder, torn between fear and pride. Daniel's eyes stayed fixed on the boy, and in his mind one question burned brighter than any other. How could a small child create something that even his top engineers failed to design? Daniel Cole sat back down at his table, but he could not stop glancing at the boy in the corner. His coffee was cold now, forgotten, yet his mind buzzed with energy. 4 years, he had lived surrounded by experts, engineers with the finest degrees, people who worked day and night on blueprints and models. And yet, this boy, a child barely 8 years old, had drawn something on a napkin that looked more promising than anything his company had produced in months. He tried to dismiss it, telling himself it was a trick of his tired mind, but the thought refused to leave him. He kept staring, studying the boy's calm face, the small hand still holding the pencil as if it were a tool of destiny. Emma noticed his attention and grew uneasy. She did not like strange men taking interest in her son. Too often in life, she had seen how the powerful used the weak. She walked over quickly, snatched the napkin, and tried to fold it away in her apron pocket. But Daniel stood up again. His voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp. Please, wait, he said. I need to see that drawing again. Emma shook her head firmly. No. It's just a child's sketch. Nothing important. She pulled Liam closer to her side. Liam, however, looked up with innocent curiosity. Why? He asked Daniel. Do you like it? For a moment, Daniel's hard mask cracked. He knelt down slightly, bringing his tall frame closer to the boy's level. Yes, he said softly. I like it very much. Do you know why? Liam tilted his head. Daniel continued, because the people I work with, they've been trying to build something like this. But we could not make it strong enough. And you just drew it. How did you know? Liam shrugged, his eyes bright but simple. I just thought about it. I see bridges in my head, like puzzles. If too many cars go on them, I think about how to make them stronger. I don't know why. It just comes. He said it with such honesty, such natural truth, that Daniel felt a chill run through him. Emma's face tightened. She pulled Liam back toward the corner table and hissed under her breath. Don't bother him, Liam. He's a customer. She turned her glare on Daniel. And you leave him alone. He's just a child. You rich men think you can buy everything, but not my son. Her voice was firm, but beneath it, Daniel heard fear. He raised his hands in a gesture of peace. I don't want to hurt him, he said. I don't want to buy him. But do you realize what he has? Do you realize what this could mean for the world? Emma's heart thudded. She had always known Liam was different. His teachers said he was distracted, never followed instructions, always sketching. They called him slow sometimes, even strange. But she knew better. She had seen him fix broken toys, redesign small household things, and draw plans for buildings she had never understood. Still, she had never wanted attention. Attention meant danger. And now, Here was the most powerful businessman in the city staring at her son like he had discovered a diamond. Daniel slowly reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. He placed it on the table in front of Emma. "My name is Daniel Cole," he said. "I run Cole Industries. If you ever change your mind, call me. I believe your son has a gift. A rare one." Emma stared at the card but did not touch it. Her lips tightened into a thin line. She turned away without answering. But Liam's curiosity had been sparked. "Mom," he whispered when Daniel walked back to his table. Why was he so surprised? "Was it really that good?" Emma bent down, cupping his small face in her tired hands. "Liam, you are good. Very good. But not everyone in this world has kind hearts. Sometimes people only want to use others. That man has money and power. That makes him dangerous." Liam frowned. But he looked sad. Like he needed help. Emma paused, startled by her son's words. She glanced back at Daniel, who was staring out the rain-streaked window, his face lost in thought. For the first time, she noticed something heavy in his expression, loneliness, maybe even despair. But she shook the thought away. She could not afford to care about rich men's problems. Daniel left soon after, the untouched coffee left on the table, the storm outside swallowing him back into the night. Yet his mind refused to rest. That boy's drawing stayed etched in his thoughts. He replayed the details again and again, the way the child's lines fixed the design flaws his own engineers had struggled with. It was no coincidence. He knew genius when he saw it, and that boy was no ordinary child. That night, Emma walked Liam home through the wet streets. He held her hand tightly, swinging his other hand with the pencil still clutched between his fingers. "Mom," he said quietly, "what if I could really help people with my drawings? What if bridges don't break anymore, and people don't get hurt?" His words pierced her heart. She wanted to protect him, keep him safe, hide him from greedy eyes. But she also saw the spark in his gaze, the same spark his father once had before life had crushed him. In a tall office across the city, Daniel Cole sat in the dark, staring at blueprints spread across his desk. His engineers had failed again today. Investors had shouted in his ear. But he ignored them now. All he could see was that napkin sketch, burned into his mind like a secret message. He poured himself a glass of whiskey, but it did not calm him. Instead, one thought repeated in his head, louder and louder, until it drowned out everything else. That boy could be the answer. And deep down, Daniel knew he would not be able to walk away. The next morning began like any other for Emma. She rose before dawn, her body heavy with fatigue, and prepared Liam's breakfast with shaky hands. Their apartment was small, one room with peeling paint and creaking floors, but it was their home. She packed Liam's school bag, kissed his forehead, and reminded him to behave. But Liam was already lost in thought, sketching small designs on the corner of his notebook. He never seemed to stop drawing, as if his mind refused to rest. Emma worried about him constantly. The world did not understand children like him. Teachers called him strange, classmates teased him, and neighbors whispered. She told herself it didn't matter, her job was to shield him from pain. Across the city, in a skyscraper of glass and steel, Daniel Cole was not thinking about profit or investors that morning. For the first time in years, his mind was consumed not by money but by a child's napkin sketch. He sat at the head of a long conference table, surrounded by his team of engineers, their laptops glowing with complex designs. They argued over figures, simulations, and failures, their voices sharp with frustration. But Daniel barely listened. He tapped his pen against the table, his eyes unfocused. Finally, he stood. "Enough," he said, his voice cutting through the noise. "I want you all to see something." He pulled out a folded napkin from his jacket, the very one he had taken from the cafe when Emma wasn't looking. He spread it across the table. The engineers leaned in, confused, then shocked. Lines were simple but elegant, a clarity none of their digital models had achieved. "Sir, where did this come from?" one of them asked. Daniel hesitated, then replied, "Doesn't matter. Just tell me, is it possible?" The room went silent. After a long pause, one of the senior engineers spoke carefully. "If this is correct, it solves the tension problem we've been facing. The angles distribute the weight perfectly. It's genius. Another added, almost whispering, but who drew this? This doesn't look like a professional sketch. Daniel's jaw tightened. He could not bring himself to say the truth yet. He only answered, I need you to test it. Immediately. By evening, Daniel's mind was made up. He had to see the boy again. He sent his assistant, a woman named Claire, to the cafe with a quiet instruction, bring them to me. Claire obeyed. That night, when Emma arrived for her shift, Claire approached her politely. Mrs. Emma, Mr. Cole would like to see you and your son. Just for a short visit. Please. Emma froze, her heart pounding. She wanted to refuse instantly, but Claire's calm voice and the card she held out felt difficult to ignore. After much hesitation, and Liam's quiet pleading eyes, Emma agreed. The ride to Cole Industries felt unreal. Liam's small face was pressed against the window of the sleek car, his eyes wide at the towering buildings and glowing lights. Emma sat stiffly, her hands clenched in her lap. When they arrived, they were led through grand glass doors, past security guards, and up to the highest floor. The office stretched wide, walls lined with screens and models. It looked nothing like their tiny apartment. Emma felt out of place, but Liam's eyes sparkled with curiosity. Daniel greeted them himself. He looked less like the cold CEO Emma had met and more like a man with restless energy. He crouched slightly in front of Liam. Hello again, he said softly. I'm glad you came. Emma stood protectively behind her son. This will be quick, she said. We won't stay long. Daniel nodded. He had expected resistance. Of course. I want to show him something. He led them into a large room where engineers waited, curious and skeptical. On a wide table lay blueprints and unfinished models. Daniel placed a marker in Liam's hand. We've been trying to solve this design, he explained gently. Would you like to try? Emma immediately objected. No. He's just a child. He's not here to perform for you. But before she could pull him back, Liam stepped forward. His small eyes scanned the blueprint, his lips pressed tight in concentration. Then, slowly, he began to draw. His lines were swift but steady, his little fingers tracing paths no one else had considered. The engineers leaned in, whispering, their jaws slack. Within minutes, Liam had drawn a solution. Not only did he adjust the problem design, but he added improvements none of them had thought of. When he finished, he set the marker down quietly, as if it were nothing. The room erupted in stunned silence. One engineer finally muttered, "This is brilliant. He fixed it in minutes." Another whispered, "Impossible." Emma's cheeks burned. She pulled Liam back to her side. "That's enough," she snapped. "We're leaving." Daniel's eyes, however, were alight with something she had never seen before, hope. "Please," he said softly. "I don't want to hurt him. I see something extraordinary. He has a gift. Do you know how rare this is?" Emma's voice hardened. "I don't care about your company or your problems. My son is not some tool for rich men. We've survived this long without you, and we will continue to do so." She grabbed Liam's hand and turned toward the door. Daniel stood frozen, watching them leave, his chest tight. He wanted to stop them, to beg, but pride and fear held him back. The door closed behind them, leaving only silence and the stunned faces of his engineers. That night, as Emma tucked Liam into bed, she tried to smile. But inside, she was shaken. She had seen the look in those men's eyes, the hunger, the awe. They wanted something from her boy, something she could not understand. She kissed his forehead, whispering, "You're just my little Liam. That's all that matters." But deep down, she knew the truth. The world would not look at him as just a boy anymore. And across the city, Daniel stood at his office window, staring at the storm clouds rolling back across the skyline. His heart was racing, his mind alive with possibilities. For years, he had faced problems money could not solve. And now, an answer had appeared in the form of a child. He whispered to himself, "He's not just a boy. He's the future." The next morning, Emma walked through the crowded market with Liam by her side. The city buzzed with noise, vendors shouting, children playing, cars honking, but inside, she felt only silence. Her mind replayed the scene at Coal Industries again and again. She had seen the way those engineers stared at her son, their eyes wide, almost fearful, as if they had witnessed something they could not explain. And she had seen Daniel Cole's expression, not of greed alone but of desperation. That unsettled her most. Men like him were dangerous not because they wanted things but because they believed they had a right to them. Emma bought bread with the last of her coins and gripped the bag tightly. She had struggled her whole life, but never had the stakes felt this high. Liam skipped ahead, humming to himself, holding his sketchbook like a treasure. She wanted to take it from him, to throw away every pencil and page so no one could ever see what he could do. But how could she? His drawings were not toys. They were a part of him, as natural as breathing. To silence them would be to silence her son's soul. At home, Emma sat by the window, staring out at the grey skyline. Memories of her late husband filled her mind. He too had been a man of ideas, an architect who dreamed of building homes for families like theirs. But one powerful investor had stolen his designs and left him ruined. He had died soon after, his dreams buried with him. Emma had promised herself never to trust men with wealth again. They took, they destroyed, and they left people broken. Now, seeing Daniel Cole, she felt that same danger creeping close again, except this time, it was not her husband's ideas at stake. It was her child. Liam tugged at her sleeve. "Mom," he said softly, "did I do something wrong at that office?" Emma shook her head quickly. "No, sweetheart. You did nothing wrong. You were amazing. But sometimes being amazing can be dangerous." Liam frowned, confused. "But they liked my drawing. Why is that bad?" Emma cupped his small face in her hands, her voice trembling. "Because people who like too much, they will try to take you away. And I can't let that happen. Do you understand?" Liam nodded slowly, but his eyes still held a spark of curiosity. Deep inside, he did not see danger. He saw possibility. Meanwhile, Daniel Cole sat in his towering office, restless. He had barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the boy's little hands moving across the blueprint with such ease. His engineers had confirmed what he already knew: the child's design worked. Not only worked, but worked better than anything they had built before. Investors were already pressing for answers, demanding solutions to the failing bridge project that threatened to sink his company. And Daniel knew Liam was the answer. But how could he convince the mother? He called his assistant Claire. "Find out everything about them," he ordered. "Where they live, what she earns, what debts she has. But do it quietly. I don't want her scared off." Claire nodded, though her eyes showed doubt. She had never seen her boss like this before. He was usually cold, calculating, detached. But now there was urgency in his tone, almost desperation. That evening, Daniel appeared again at the cafe. The storm was gone, but the air still smelled of rain. Emma stiffened when she saw him walk through the door. She wanted to turn and flee, but her shift had just begun, and running would only show weakness. She forced a polite tone. "What do you want, Mr. Cole?" Daniel lowered his voice so the other customers could not hear. "I want to help you," he said. "I know what it's like to struggle. You shouldn't have to live this way. Your son has a gift, and he deserves better. I can give him opportunities you never dreamed of: schools, teachers, resources. He could change the world." Emma's eyes hardened. "And in return, you get to own him, control him? That's not help. That's theft." Daniel shook his head quickly. "No. Not own. Protect. Guide. Do you think the world will leave him alone if you hide him in this cafe? They'll find him eventually. At least with me, he'll be safe." Emma slammed her hand on the counter, anger flashing in her eyes. "Safe? My husband trusted men like you. Do you know where that left him? In a grave. You think because you have money, you can promise safety? Money doesn't protect. It destroys." Her voice cracked, but she stood tall. "You will not take my son." The cafe grew quiet. Customers turned their heads, sensing tension. Daniel's face softened, for once stripped of arrogance. "I'm sorry for your loss," he said quietly. But I am not that man. I don't want to hurt you. I can't ignore what I saw in your boy. His voice lowered, almost pleading. Do you know what it's like to look for answers everywhere, with the smartest minds around you, and then to find it in the hands of a child? It changes you. Emma felt her chest tighten, but she turned away, refusing to look at him. She focused on the dishes, the orders, anything but his eyes. Liam, sitting quietly in the corner, had watched the whole exchange. His small hands clutched his sketchbook, his mind racing. He did not fully understand the fight between his mother and the CEO, but he knew one thing: his drawings were no longer just for him. They carried weight now, power that even grown men could not ignore. That night, as Emma walked Liam home, she gripped his hand tighter than ever. She whispered fiercely, "Promise me, Liam. Promise me you will never show your drawings to anyone again." Liam looked at her, torn between obedience and the fire in his heart. Slowly, he nodded. But as he lay in bed later, staring at the ceiling, he whispered to himself, "But what if they can help people?" And somewhere across the city, Daniel Cole stood at his window again, watching the lights of the city glow like 1,000 stars. His empire was crumbling, his projects failing, but he felt something he had not felt in years: hope. He whispered into the night, "I won't give up on him. Not yet." The days after the meeting moved quickly, and Emma felt like her quiet world had been turned upside down, but in a way she had never imagined before, because Liam was no longer just a child sitting with crayons in a corner. He was becoming the center of attention in a story too big for her to fully understand, yet too powerful for her to ignore. Daniel sent his driver every morning to pick Liam and Emma up, taking them to his company's headquarters, a place of glass walls and shining lights, where men and women in suits rushed about with papers and laptops, staring at the little boy as though he was carrying a secret none of them could touch. Liam, calm as always, would sit with engineers and designers, sketching quietly while Emma stood by, feeling both proud and uneasy, because while everyone looked at Liam with awe, she still only saw her son, the boy who needed bedtime stories and warm milk at night. Yet there was no denying the truth anymore, because every sketch Liam made was not just a child's drawing, it was the blueprint of something new, something Daniel's entire team had been struggling to create for months. One morning, Daniel called Emma into his office, the same room where glass walls showed the city skyline glowing with rain clouds, and he told her the truth: Liam's designs had solved a problem even the best engineers in the company could not, and those sketches could change the future of technology. Emma sat in silence, gripping the strap of her worn handbag, her mind spinning as Daniel explained how Liam's patterns matched advanced mathematical sequences, codes hidden in the lines that no ordinary child could see, and Emma finally whispered the question that had been haunting her for days: how is that possible? He's just a boy. Daniel leaned forward, lowering his voice as though the walls had ears, and said that sometimes, very rarely, a mind is born that sees the world differently, not broken by rules or limits, but open like a door no one else knows is there. Emma thought about all the times Liam had sat alone, drawing in silence while other children played with toys, and she remembered the teachers who had called him strange, too quiet, too distracted, not realizing his silence was the space where something greater was being born. The moment felt too big, but then Liam, holding his small notebook, walked in and said something that froze the air. He told Daniel that the drawings were not inventions he made up, but pictures he had seen in his dreams. Emma's breath caught, and Daniel's eyes narrowed with curiosity, because Liam explained that in his dreams there were shapes, lights, and voices guiding his hand, as though another world was speaking to him, showing him how to build things no one else had imagined yet. Emma felt fear rising inside her chest, not of her son but of what this meant. Was he safe, or was there something beyond human reach flowing through him? Daniel, for the first time since Emma had met him, looked unsettled, his usual control slipping as he tried to hide the storm behind his sharp eyes. "Dreams don't just build machines," he muttered, but Liam only shrugged, his small voice calm, saying that the dreams wouldn't stop, that more was coming. That night, Emma lay awake in her small apartment, the city rain tapping against the window, thinking of all the warnings she had ignored about Liam being different, and for the first time she wondered if her son's gift was more than genius. It was a secret, a dangerous one, that might bring not only opportunity but also attention from people far beyond Daniel's company. She looked at Liam sleeping peacefully, his notebook clutched against his chest, and she whispered a silent promise to protect him, no matter what truths were waiting to be revealed. The next morning, The city was alive with news about Daniel Cole's surprising decision. Reporters gathered outside his company's headquarters, whispering rumors about a secret project, about a small boy, and about something that could change the future. Emma had no idea how big this had become until she walked Liam to school. Parents turned to look at her. Some smiled, some whispered. She felt the heavy weight of attention pressing against her tired shoulders. Later that day, Daniel called her. His voice was calm but carried a seriousness that made Emma's heart race. He asked her to meet him at his office alone. Emma agreed, though every part of her wanted to run. She had always kept her life small, safe, hidden from powerful people. But now she was walking into the glass tower of the Cole Group, her shoes clicking against the shiny floor, feeling like she didn't belong. Daniel greeted her not as a CEO but as a man carrying a decision heavier than gold. His office was filled with models, sketches, and screens. But in the center of his desk was one thing: Liam's napkin sketch, now framed. Emma froze when she saw it. Her little boy's messy drawing, now treated like treasure. Emma, Daniel began, his eyes fixed on her, I need to make a choice. And I can't make it without you. Emma sat down slowly, nervous. What choice? She asked. Daniel leaned forward, folding his hands. Your son, he has something inside him. A vision, a gift. My engineers looked at his sketch again last night. They stayed until morning. They tested the design, ran simulations. Do you know what they found? Emma shook her head. Daniel's voice dropped lower. It works. It's something even my best minds struggled with. And Liam, he saw it without training, without effort. Do you understand what that means? Emma's chest tightened. She thought of her boy, sitting quietly at the kitchen table, lost in his world of drawings, while she worked herself tired to pay the bills. She never thought of it as special. She thought he was just a child escaping into lines and shapes. Daniel continued, his tone heavy. I have two paths before me. I could take his design, build it, and the company would rise higher than ever. But that would mean taking Liam's work, shaping him into something he may not be ready for, maybe even taking him away from a normal childhood. He paused, his eyes searching Emma's face. Or, I protect him. I give him time. I invest in him as a person, not just a mind. But that means risking the future of the company, risking everything I built. Emma's throat went dry. And you're asking me? Yes, Daniel said firmly. Because you are his mother. And because you know what it's like to fight the world alone. I don't want to repeat the mistakes I made chasing power. For a long time, silence filled the room. Outside the tall windows, the city moved on, cars streaming, people rushing, life continuing. But inside, Emma felt the weight of a decision that could shape her son's future forever. Finally, she spoke. Mr. Cole, Liam is just a boy. He's kind, he's shy, and he loves to draw. I don't want him to be used. I don't want him to lose his smile just to make the world richer. If he has a gift, it should grow naturally. He should choose when he's ready. Daniel listened, nodding slowly, his face unreadable. Then, to her surprise, he smiled. It wasn't the sharp smile of a businessman, it was soft, almost relieved. That's the answer I hoped you'd give, he said quietly. Emma blinked. You already knew? Daniel leaned back, exhaling deeply. I knew what was right. But I needed to hear it from you. I needed to know you'd protect him. Because power has a way of twisting people. And if Liam is going to change the world, he needs a mother strong enough to keep him human. Tears filled Emma's eyes, but she blinked them away. She wasn't used to people believing in her. She wasn't used to being told she was strong. For years, she had carried the weight of survival, of bills, of long nights. But now, for the first time, someone was telling her that what she carried was enough. Daniel rose from his chair, walked to the desk, and picked up the framed napkin. He handed it to Emma. Keep it. It belongs to him, not me. Emma took it, clutching the frame tightly. For the first time, she felt like she was holding not just paper, but a piece of Liam's future. Before she left, Daniel spoke again, his voice steady. Emma, I won't walk away. I want to support you both, not as a businessman chasing profit, but as someone who sees what truly matters. Whatever Liam chooses in the future, he will have the chance to grow, to be free. That's my promise. Emma nodded, her heart heavy but hopeful. She stepped out of the glass tower with the napkin in her arms, the rain beginning to fall again outside. She looked up at the grey sky, then at the people rushing around her. Everything felt different now. She was still a single mother, still tired, still carrying the same struggles. But she was also carrying something else, hope. And somewhere deep inside, she knew that Liam's gift was not just about designs or machines. It was about showing people, even the richest and most powerful, that sometimes the smallest hands could shape the biggest change.